Welcome back to Smart Life. Now, Obama gave the commencement address at UC Irvine's graduation ceremony this past weekend, and he didn't mince words when it came to climate change. He mocked those who, quote, stubbornly and automatically reject the scientific evidence, and declared that those people are the ones who think that climate science is a liberal plot. Yet, as has been the case time and time again, no reference is made to what this scientific evidence actually is and who it's coming from. So joining us now is Tom Borelli, a senior fellow at FreedomWorks. Tom, welcome to Smart Life.
Hi, Dr. Gina. How you doing?
Good to see you. Last time I saw you, I think we were on Sean Hannity's show together,
This
if I remember
is true.
correctly.
That's right.
It's good to see you. Isn't it important, Tom, to make a distinction in the first place between what is man-made climate change and natural climate change, which is just exactly like it sounds, naturally occurring?
Well, absolutely. But again, this is really not about the science. It's really all about the politics. And if you take a step back, you realize that President Obama, what he can't talk about, he can't talk about, the Veterans Administration. He can't talk about Iraq. He can't talk about, Benghazi.
Yeah.
Many issues he can't talk about. So what he needs to do is change the debate. And what he does have in his corner is the executive branch. And through the executive branch, he can use the power of the pulpit to drive his message that he wants. And the only thing he really can drive is this whole climate change issue, with the elections coming up. And, your point about being at a commencement address out in California, well, he's trying to communicate to the young people, trying to communicate to the environmentalists, to the young people who've been misled about the science for many years. So this is really all politics. And sadly for the United States, this is, he has regulations coming out of the EPA, and it's all pain and no gain.
So this man-made climate change, really a centerpiece issue for statists who want to win elections. But is there any truth about the data that supposedly exists to support the theories of, for example, the Environmental Protection Agency?
Well, listen, the most important thing is, there's certainly a debate about whether or not man is causing global warming. And, if man is, then you have to take these drastic effects, and it's going to have huge economic impacts. And right now, the most important thing to realize is that global temperature hasn't risen in about 17 years. So if it's not rising, that means most of their climate models have been wrong, which means, as a doctor, right, first do no harm. So you have to go cautiously. But besides all that, again, getting back to the politics, President Obama is driving the Environmental Protection Agency to regulate greenhouse gases from power plants. That's a rule that came out of the EPA about a week ago. And this rule is going to have dramatic economic adverse consequences to the citizens of the United States. And it's going to eliminate or close over 300 coal-fired power plants. Those are going to have to be replaced, probably with natural gas and with renewable energy, but that's all increased costs. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce came out with this study, and they said it's going to cost the economy about $51 billion a year, billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars in increased energy prices, electricity prices by the year 2030, 250,000 jobs lost per year. So there's huge economic impact. And then on the benefit side, China continues to use coal, is the largest user of coal. They generate more carbon dioxide emissions than we do. So whatever we do is going to have a minimal impact on the global emissions of carbon dioxide. So this is really all politics, and it's really bad for the United States and the citizens.
But he claims that, Obama says that his new climate change policies will reduce the greenhouse gases by 30%. How is this possible, Tom, when solar and wind power have abysmally fallen short of projected energy output, and government bureaucracy has caused things like the Solyndra scandal and Fisker Automotive's failure?
Well, really what you're talking about is a command and control energy policy. Thou shalt do what Obama wants. And he's going to sit there and turn the levers from the White House and bankrupt the coal industry and then try to replace it with renewable energy, part of it. And that's going to cost huge sums of money. And the 30% reduction that they want, again, isn't going to have a meaningful impact on global emissions. So again, you have to, why would you be doing this? And my my thesis is, and you mentioned Solyndra, a lot of President Obama's donors have huge investments in the green energy space, and they can't get those products in the free market because they're too expensive. So then, therefore, you have to force it through the regulatory agency and through what Obama's doing through the executive branch. Now, remember, in 2010, there was this cap and trade legislation, the Waxman-Markey bill, to regulate carbon dioxide emissions, and that failed in the Senate. So we, the people, said no, but Obama's ignoring what we want. He's going to do what he wants.
In an article, The New American, the co-founder of Greenpeace told a committee, he said this: there's no scientific proof that human emissions of carbon dioxide are the dominant cause of the minor warming of the atmosphere over the past 100 years. They went on. I mean, even the United Nations report on the scientific data about climate change released last September said there had been no real increase in global surface temperatures over the past 15 years. So what are they using amongst themselves, I guess, to continue to rationalize this green building, this green movement, and all the increased costs that are associated with it?
Well, again, I always go back to, follow the money. And a lot of companies really bet big on green energy. And they're going to get it one way or another because of the close relationship between big business and big government. Corporatism, crony capitalism, put any word you want on it.
Right.
It's really bad. And ironically, Al Gore, former vice president, he has huge investments in green energy. And those right now aren't cost competitive. So you need to force the government with regulations in order to make their business model work. And we, the people, are going to pay for it.
And that's the real corporate cronyism that you never hear about. I mean, we always hear that the corporate cronyism is supposed to be taking place within the GOP, but really, and not that the GOP hasn't been complicit, because if anything, they haven't made enough noise, at least the establishment in the Beltway, GOP types. But really, this is happening, and most people who are on the other side of this just continue to look at this whole thing blindly and not really look at the facts here that I'm so glad you have brought to our attention. Tom Borelli, thank you so much for this. Tell us where we can find you.
FreedomWorks.org. I'm a senior fellow with FreedomWorks.
Senior fellow with FreedomWorks.
Right.
And we'll hope to catch up with you again soon. Thank you so much for being on top of this, Tom. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right.